All right, guys, so I'm turning the tables on Kevin because he interviewed me just now. So we're going to talk a bit about how he got into GNR, some cool stories he had to share too. So Kevin, what age were you when you got into GNR and like what year was it?
1987, 13 years old.
13 years old. So like what was your first exposure to the band?
Had just turned 13. I saw I think it was a Hit Parader magazine with a picture of Axl. And I had a friend who had heard the album, and I think I was in 6th or 7th grade, and I saw the interview that the band did with the group interview that they did on MTV.
Where they destroyed the set.
Smash, I think was the name of the DJ.
Yeah.
I don't think he lasted much longer after that, but it was a interview that they did, the group interview in 1987. And like literally within 2 months of getting into the band, getting their album, I used to rip out the Appetite for Destruction advertisement for the album, and I put it on my locker, and I went to the Perkins Palace Pasadena show in 1987, and that was a pretty small venue, which is not there anymore, and they did 4 shows at Perkins Palace. It was a homecoming. It was the last week of December. The first night they opened up for TSOL. It was December 26, 87. TSOL the first night, LA Guns the third night. I think it was Junkyard, and then Funhouse. Those were the 4 bands that opened up each night for Guns N' Roses, and I went the first night, and it was incredible. It was raw.
Did they show up on time, like in the club days? Would they show up on time?
Yeah, I just remember it being incredible. I don't remember exactly how long we were waiting for them to go on, and they did have a warm-up band, so but it wasn't a very late.
It wasn't like 3 hours you were waiting for Axl to come on stage.
That all started I think in 91, 92. So saw the Perkins Palace show, and then I lived in the San Fernando Valley, and I was just over the hill from Hollywood, so my friend and I would go take the bus. This was before we were young enough to drive. We would take the bus to Hollywood, and we would go to all the rock stores, and everything was like bootleg stores. There was a place called the Rock Shop on Hollywood Boulevard, and they had lots of vinyl bootlegs. And one of the first bootlegs I got was, I think it was Dusseldorf, Germany, 1987. And then I got Halloween on the Horizon, which was a bootleg that was a bootleg of the Perkins Palace show. And then I just started collecting more and more vinyl bootlegs. And I remember there being a lot of bootlegs with unreleased songs. Back Off Bitch, Don't Cry. Those were all songs I heard and had been listening to for years before the Illusions albums came out. So and then of course, Live Like a Suicide, I got the cassette of Live Like a Suicide, and so I had that one and Appetite. So I was actually disappointed when GNR Lies came out.
Because they just re-released some of the songs.
And was a re-release of the Live Like a Suicide, because I had been listening to the 4 Live Like a Suicide songs for, at that point, 2 or couple years. And had bootlegs with all the demos of those. So the demos, the different versions of those. There was a bootleg called 44 Caliber Horticulture. A lot of different bootlegs, which I have the finals of. And